Andrew,
how are we, Gary?
All right, start with it, mate.
You get something else on, Gary? You finishing off a game of chess or something?
I'm sorting out my technology, my iPhone thing that I do off camera.
All right, okay.
I'm trying to set it up. But don't worry about it. Don't worry about me.
You'll all be fine, because Gary, you are tricking out your man shed, and this is where not only do you broadcast for the Paisley Community Chat Show, but you also do your wee radio show, which goes out on Tuesday nights.
Oh, I know everybody's talking about it.
What vinyl have you been playing recently, Gary?
Oh, last night was a Paul Weller Pink album called On Sunset. Four records for that, and all sorts of. I play my mid-U records and my Ultravox records and some other stuff.
Fantastic.
So try to plan for next week's.
I'm sure you'll get that sorted. But it's been a fairly interesting week, and we were just about to talk about, I think, what Wallace is referring to. And first of all, folks, if you're joining us, good to see you as always. How you doing?
Quick hello, welcome to the show, everyone. Paisley Community's 39?
Episode 39.
39th chat show, the longest running chat show in the history of Renfrewshire, at least.
At least. But and Wallace mentioned it. The swamp has been drained today. A monumental day for the world. We finally got rid of Donald Trump.
Yeah, the swamp is a kind of Saint-Tropez colour at the moment because it's getting drained.
It's been a bit tangled, hasn't it?
But
have you watched any of it at all, Gary? Did you watch any of the inauguration or Trump leaving on Marine One?
Not much, if I'm being honest. I've been a bit preoccupied today, but I've seen bits and bobs of it. To be honest, didn't want to see much of the Trump geezer. But I watched some of the new president, very dignified. Messages are really about bringing things together. Good stuff. There's Elizabeth, and from Chicago.
Good riddance to bad rubbish. Absolutely, indeed. It's going to be interesting to see how the world changes, because they're not going to be getting fed so much mis and disinformation now, Gary. We might get a sense of normality out of folks, you know.
Well, hopefully lying in public life is a thing of the past.
One can only hope.
Hope that premise ends up over here. Shouldn't it be illegal to lie in public life?
If you're a prime minister or president or anything like that, yeah, of course.
Now it's went to such an extent, Andy. I don't know if you've noticed some of these big adverts in the billboard. You might not have. You're not out as much as me, but there's an advert for Mexican mince, and it's up down Halfords. So you can do that one system. It's at Halfords. So you get this big advert. I think it said something like, you get Boris Johnson on the thing eating this thing, and it says if you buy this, you'll get 350 million quid.
Right.
So it's taken the lie and put it on an advert because it's all right.
Who's got the accountability? Now, Gary, as you know, and folks, if you tune into this programme, we are politically neutral, aren't we, Gary? Politically neutral. We rarely bring politics up at all.
Yes, but I'm going to pull a politician up because that's just pandering to the depths, Eddie. Come on.
President Biden, Councillor Devine.
It's President Biden, Eddie. I've learned a wee bit about President Biden and his so-called slowness, but he recovers. He's recovered from a severe stutter, so that's to his credit. He slows down and he changes the way he speaks, and he hesitates now and again because he's had an impairment in his speech. Yeah, so I think that's to his credit. Eddie Devine, hang your head in shame.
That's you getting tilt. Dear. But listen, I think he's going to be a great president for America. We can certainly rest easy from a Twitter point of view that you've not got someone who's just, the chief tweeter or the tweeter in chief or whatever it is, that's just there, two thumbs bashing away, spouting out his nonsense. It's going to be a good. I just noticed there, Council of the Vines made amends for himself.
See, there you go. Eddie never even said the previous thing.
No, don't know.
Never. Was it me? I never said that.
Oh, fantastic!
And of course, I've been struck by the historicalness of it, Andy, and it's the seismic change in America because of Kamala Harris, the lady vice president. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, it really is good. And watched Biden yesterday as he was leaving Delaware to go to Washington. And he gave a very emotional. He was moved to tears. Very emotional talk about what it meant to him, and obviously lost his son, and lost his wife. He's been through an awful lot. So I'm an individual that has got compassion and understanding, and we can only hope. To our American audience that join in, we can only hope that the reconciliation that needs to happen in America can start happening. And we wish everyone all the best. The question is, where does Trump go next? Of course, Gary.
He says he's on his way back in some shape or form. I'm afraid that his family are going to come back, but I think it's going to be to their detriment. Because I think this period, and hopefully this next period, and hopefully it's 8 years, Andy, at least.
Yeah.
If they get a second term, I think it will show him up for what he was, and it will show his family up for the BAMs that they are. So see if they were to call into this show, Andy.
Oh, you reckon you could get? Well, listen, everybody's censored Trump. Maybe the Paisley Community Chat Show might be his only potential outlet. We'd have to consider whether we'd let him on.
No, he wouldn't get through the BAM filter.
No, absolutely, probably right. But hey, listen, he might be heading for Scotland. You never know. He might be bringing his golf clubs and coming over to Scotland. But absolutely is. Ray points out. Who cares? As long as he's not doing dangerous stuff, Ray, then we'd be okay. That's the main thing. But good. So, listen, what else has caught your eye this week, Gary?
I mean that a lot, Andy. I mean the American thing caught my eye. Actually, bits that I caught, Andy, today really caught my eye. And Tommy spot on. Lady Gaga was superb. That's a Scottish-ism. But she really, really was great. I think she showed the passion for the moment, so that was good. What happened there?
See, you went to click. Excuse the small interlude. This is part of Gary's ScotVec module training on how to work the software. But what happened? You went to unclick Tommy's comment at the same time. A new comment came in at the bottom. Push Tommy's comment up, and you clicked Ray's comment.
Thanks for that tutorial, Andy.
On the job training, folks. On the job. It's a speciality.
I feel as if the audience are intruding on our remedial class here.
I know, absolutely. But listen, every day's a school day, Gary. Hold on one second.
It's all good.
There we go. Yes.
Of course, there's the merch, Andy. Any orders then?
We've no marketed the merchandise yet. This is the Andy mug. If anyone wants to buy the Andy mug, it comes complete with Paisley Community Trust.
I'll get the Gary mug over next week.
I will get that done, Gary. You're letting the team down here.
I have tea when I go back, Andy. I get tea when I go back over.
You get tea at the back end of the day.
So another thing that's caught my eye, and I throw over from last week, Andy, is something that I think we should continue to promote, because the deadline for applications for the nominating in the Provost Community Awards has not passed yet. So I think we should keep talking about that just momentarily. I mean, we can't really see that, but there's a number of nominations for the Provost Award. So if you've not nominated yet for the Community Champions, get on there. Provost Awards, have a look and nominate whoever you feel is worthy.
I'm just going to bring that back onto the screen, Gary, just to look at the categories. So we've got arts and culture.
Can you see that?
Yeah, I can see that, Gary. I've got my specs on. Arts and culture, Carers Award, community group, community volunteer, employee of the year, ingenuity in business, and the last one is sporting achievement. So those are the award categories. I can't see the date on there, Gary. I'll take a wee look and we see if we can get that later on. But folks,
29th, I think it's the deadline.
What's that, when?
29th is the deadline.
Of January, 29th of January. So, yeah. Folks, we've had so many wonderful community heroes on this programme. This is what it's all about. So you shouldn't be stuck for ideas on who to put forward, nominate. So many worthy winners and recipients. So please support your local community groups. It's really important.
Yeah, here's a wee message from Jackie that's just come in, and this actually caught my eye, Andy, today, because
he did it his way.
Yeah, as Trump was leaving, they played "I Did It My Way," and it might have been a random tweet, but and the tweet came up and says, "I bet you if Sinatra was around, he would have absolutely hated Trump." And one of the replies caught my eye.
Right.
It was Nancy Sinatra replied and says he did hate Trump with a passion. So there you go. There you go.
Interesting. I'm sure there'll be fallout from that. What else caught your eye, Gary? Anything else?
Not that we've got images of, Andy, but something again it's maybe worth talking about from last week, and it's very, very current, is this. So it is crap. I mean, to not put too fine a point on it, this lockdown, stay at home is crap. But what's maybe caught my eye or pricked my ears up a wee bit more is the amount of traffic on the roads. It really is quite noticeable that there's a lot of people out and about still. Now, I'm guilty of that, and I was in the office today, but I've made a conscious decision that I'll work from here, and on a Wednesday, I'll get into the office, just make sure it's okay, and then come back again.
Yep.
So that must be happening, and must be happening a lot, but it's happening all over. There's still a rush hour in the morning, there's still a rush hour in the evening, I'm hearing. So that's caught my eye, and I think it's maybe just reinforcing that message that we're not out of this yet.
We're not out of it. Yeah, absolutely. So important.
Almost unbelievably, Andy, we're not out of this yet.
Yeah. Now we talked about that last week. Last week, actually, we had again fantastic program, fantastic show, great guests as always. We always say that show is only as good as the guests, and we had some brilliant guests on last week. We've got even an array of brilliant guests lined up this week, which we'll talk about in a moment. But just before we do progress, a couple of things that caught my eye this week, and there's a wee bit of a theme, and we're going to lead up to something that we're going to kind of announce later on in the show, folks. So stay tuned for the big announcement. But this was the first thing that caught my eye, and maybe because it's a little bit kind of pertinent to me. But this was, I don't know if you saw this one, a housing development in the sort of Dyke Bar hospital sort of wooded area was rejected.
I did see that, Andy. Was that our councillors that rejected that?
Yeah, so there was a couple of things there, and I know we've got some councillors that do tune in and stuff for this, but one of the things that I was thinking was the press, and we know that the press can be a little bit hysterical in their use of words, trying to drum up stories where there's no really stories to be made, but it was the language here. So they rejected this. There was a local Save the Green Space community group that basically said building houses is the wrong thing to do in this site. So the suggestion here is in a shock move by councillors. Now, councillors are elected to serve their constituents, So if they're falling in line with what the constituents are asking for, then it's not a shock. They're doing what their job might be. But I think the newspaper was trying to get a wee bit more scandal out of it. But that was interesting. I think I stay relatively close to this area. Traffic would not be able to cope, and schools would not be able to cope. That alone the environmental impact would be pretty significant. So that was one thing where you see councillors rejecting something, but doing very much what the people are wanting to do. And this leads me to the second thing that caught my eye this week, Gary.
Yeah, what was that, Andy? That also caught my eye.
This caught my eye, and we're not going to touch too much into it right now, but you will have all probably noted, folks, that there is consideration that this building that you see in front of you, the Chivas building, which is iconic in Renfrew Road, may be demolished to make way for a new development on that particular site, which is now, the site is now owned by Renfrewshire Council, I understand, and there is consideration, again, might have been the press knocking it out of proportion, but the press announced this, and there was quite an uproar on social media, as you might imagine. So we're actually going to use this particular case study as something that we're going to be kicking off a little bit later on in the show, folks.
Yeah. So we're, as part of our interest in the town, and Paisley Community Trust is engaging with the community, and that's, Andy's alluding to something that we're going to launch this evening, and that's going to be the start point of it. Really an interesting, it's a fascinating building, interesting building. It's not listed. It's relatively modern, but it still doesn't mean it should be. Well, I'm prejudging. I nearly said what I thought.
You're allowed an opinion, Gary. You're allowed an opinion, but ultimately, what we want to know is, what does everyone think? And we'll be getting to that a little bit later on in the show. So, Gary,
yes,
we've got 3 cracking guests lined up. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what we've got lined up, and we'll then after that we'll get our first guest on?
Well, if you insist, Andy. So
go on.
Tonight is a kind of health and well-being theme, but it's not a special, because it's no really health and well-being as in food and nutrition and all of that sort of stuff. But it touches on it. It touches on it. So sport, health and well-being, women in sport, and accessing help for health and well-being, particularly on the cancer recovery journey. So that's what tonight's about. And our first guest is waiting impatiently in a Christmas tree decorated wall house. So our first...
You'll get into trouble, Gary. You'll get into trouble.
Can I do that bit again?
Go on. A better introduction than that, Gary.
Okay. Well, tonight from Renfrewshire Council is Caroline. And that's it.
I thought you were pressing the button, Gary.
No, I'm in a different module at the moment. There you go. I pressed that. You pressed it.
Hey, you press it. My hands are here.
Flipping heck. Pressed it at the same time.
Oh, dear. Caroline, we're like amateurs. Well, no, we are amateurs. Let's be honest.
You moving us into the realms of professionalism.
Oh,
I always think you're very professional.
Well, thank you so much. You're very kind, Caroline.
Sit up straight, we're on the telly.
Dear. But Caroline, thank you so much for joining us on Paisley Community Chat Show. We know that you're a regular listener, and we know that you contacted us a number of weeks ago to ask if you were able to come on to talk about what you do in the community, a very important and very vital role that you play. So first of all, I've got to thank you for that, because we do put the shout out every week to say if anyone wants to come on, if anyone wants to shine a particular spotlight on things, then please do so. So it was great to have you contact us to come on the programme. But I thought, by way of introduction, Caroline, for everyone that perhaps doesn't know you or doesn't know the service and role that you provide, it'd be great to get a wee overview and introduction to who you are and what you do, Caroline.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Gary and Andy, for having me. And yeah, I do watch your show ever since it started in March in lockdown. It's really, we look forward to it a Wednesday night. So thank you for that. So my name's Caroline, and I work for Renfrewshire Council, and I work on a service called Improving the Cancer Journey. So Improving the Cancer Journey is funded by Macmillan Cancer Support. We're trained by Macmillan to help people holistically. What that means is making sure that they are looked after, supported when they've been diagnosed with cancer. And just to kind of give you a kind of insight into Improving the Cancer Journey, started within Renfrewshire Council January 2020.
Okay.
And it is in 4 other councils. So basically, we're funded by Macmillan Cancer Support, and the delivery is by the councils. So just to give you the other kind of side, that's over in Glasgow. Glasgow City Council was the first we call it ICG, we abbreviate it. So then it's Fife, Dundee, West Dun, and we've got Western Bartonshire, and we've got a new one launching in Eastern Bartonshire. So that just kind of gives you the geographics of where we're all located. So yeah.
What is the service aiming to do? What's your objectives?
Yeah. So what we're aiming to do is provide support and links in to the area for people that have recently been diagnosed with cancer. So what happens is just the kind of idea of how people are informed about our service. When a person's diagnosed with cancer, 6 weeks after, they will get a letter from the NHS within Renfrewshire, and they'll be invited to a holistic needs assessment. So they'll get a letter, and it'll highlight Renfrewshire Council, and they'll be given the adult services number to phone in and think, oh, I'm interested in this. You're thinking, what's the holistic needs assessment? Obviously, been diagnosed with cancer, you're like, oh, your world's totally shattered. So it's offering support at that time, crucial support, and obviously links into vital services. The holistic needs assessment, we call it the HNA, we abbreviate it to that. The holistic needs assessment is a tool, so to ascertain a client's needs. The tool will go through, we have it on a tablet device, myself and my colleague, there's 2 of us that do this. The tool will actually go through 72 concerns. Okay, so a client will not have 72 concerns. They could have actually quite a lot of concerns, but we will work through them. And the categories are physical, practical, financial, and emotional. So yeah, we'll link in and help them. We'll refer into services within the community that they may not even know that exists, and we'll make sure they've got the vital support, and we'll work with them throughout. It's important to note as well that the NHS obviously refer people into our service, but anyone can refer into our service. So for example, if they've recently just received a diagnosis, say 2 or 3 weeks ago, and they're crumbling and they need something right now, they can refer into us straight away, and we will contact them. I can give the contact details later. And also, if someone has a cancer that has reoccurred, they can refer back into our service. Yep. So hope people understand what that means.
Yeah, absolutely, and we'll get the details up on the screen for anyone that's interested, either personally themselves, Caroline, or if they have a loved one or someone close to them that has been diagnosed. And I guess cancer is something that I guess not a lot of people are comfortable talking about, but it is certainly it's a real issue that we have to deal with, and families do have to deal with. And of course, medical advancement is there all the time. They're continually improving treatments, diagnosis, earlier diagnosis, and a whole host of proactive measures. And 50 years ago or 40 years ago, a diagnosis of cancer was a totally different diagnosis from what it might be now.
That's correct, yeah.
And a lot more people, are early detections, but that is, early detection is the ability to be able to treat a lot sooner and get the support in a lot sooner, isn't it? So it's trying to, I guess, see it in a more positive light, if those aren't the wrong words, Caroline.
That's right. And when we started our service in January within the council, myself and my colleague, really proud to be part of this service, both working within the council, but entirely different departments we came from. And we obviously we're going out into the community, introducing ourselves, and the support within Renfrewshire is just amazing. And even just with COVID this year, obviously, like a lot of us, we're all working from home. So it's meant that we've had to change the dynamic as well, offering our service. So when we first started, we were going out and being very being personal with the client, going to their homes, meeting them, talking to them face to face, carrying out the holistic needs. We carry it out on a tablet device. And you could with a client for about 45 minutes to an hour. But we've not obviously been able to do that since March. So everything has changed. We've changed the dynamic. It's actually worked really, really well. So we've been able to speak to our clients over the phone, carry out holistic needs assessments on a virtual platform using what a lot of the NHS use, which is the Attend Anywhere platform, where you can carry out the virtual platform call. It's probably, people prefer to be phone or contacted on the phone, but it's still available if somebody would like to see, the face and an interaction. And another way we can do it with the holistic needs is we can actually send an email to a client, and they can do it in their own home, and they can work through the concerns checklist themselves and then bounce it back to us, and then we give them a phone call and then just have a chat about that. But just to highlight, just within the community, and there are so many people within the community that have helped with our project, including Rays of Hope. So I'd like to give a big shout out to them, because they are really, really, a lot of my clients have benefited there. And even just now, because lockdown, they're offering things on, obviously, their classes on a virtual platform. So there's still things available for clients if they're feeling particularly isolated at this time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just on obviously that change in dynamic, Caroline, with the COVID kicking in, must have been really significant to adapt to. I was wanting to ask at a practical level, what sort of access to services do you give? Is it emotional, physical? Is it financial? Is it a number of things? Is it all of that and more?
Yeah, so it's all of that you've encompassed there. So, for example, when a client identifies obviously talks about their concerns, and we'll place referrals in place. Examples of those referrals can be linking into Live Active, which is all about wellbeing, which is run by Renfrewshire Leisure. So that can be for someone that really feels, I want to keep mobile, I want to keep healthy. I could be going for a cancer operation and about their prehab, and then we can link into the team there within Renfrewshire Leisure. So it could be, just now, it can be virtual yoga, virtual circuits, all by Zoom. Yeah. Other ways that we've helped people, we've been able to link into occupational therapy within the council. We do quite a lot of referrals into Occ Health, so they can help people place grab rails in their homes. We've assisted with home adaptations. We've assisted with chairlifts, so people can get assessed for bathing assessments. Emotionally, we've been able to link in with Cancer Support Scotland for clinical psychology, counselling for post-diagnosis. And these things are even harder within the COVID environment, in particular if a client is on their own and isolated and doesn't even have many family members around. And also, just to kind of reiterate, we've been able to help with, help people with possibly new white goods. So if they're maybe with a Macmillan grant via our Advice Works team. So sometimes if we get asked a question, or could you possibly look into this, and we're still a fairly new service and we don't know the answer, we'll still research it and endeavour to help our clients. We always will.
Oh, it's fantastic. And obviously, I mean, the challenge of cancer and the impact that it has, because you mentioned a number of different components that, first of all, it's the I guess maybe the physical aspect of cancer, and that would obviously have maybe either been flagged up early or be giving the patient cause for concern. Then you've got the diagnosis, the mental impact of that, and then the implications of that out to families and support groups and organisations. So it needs different types of interventions from lots of different angles, isn't it?
Does.
Some people maybe be not necessarily pained from a physical point of view, but it might take toll on a family support unit or their ability to generate income. So you've got to be fairly adaptable. And I think what you now have is obviously the added complication of COVID coming into the mix. And you mentioned how you've adapted, but what, in terms of virtual sessions, but what are some of the other things that COVID has meant, both positive and negative, for your service?
We've adapted very well, in my opinion, and I know that in particular with people that have been shielding and people that have been given a cancer diagnosis, they obviously have been isolating, and some people don't have that network, that tight network of family, friends that can go and get them shopping or can go and run an errand for them. So I'm kind of thinking back to more like the start of this, like the March, April, May, when we were still a very young service. We only started in January, but we were linking in with the services within the council to provide food parcels to clients and making sure that they knew that they didn't have to worry about when they were going to be able to get their next meal. So that's been a part of it. Also for the shielding aspect, when we phone clients and we introduce our service, myself and my colleague, sorry, there's two of us, we will say to them about having the holistic needs, but sometimes they're maybe not ready for the holistic needs assessment once you tell them what it's all about. So a large percentage of what we've been doing through the lockdown is kind of check-in calls with clients, phoning them, how are you today? Or maybe I'll have the holistic needs after my next scan, because things have been pushed back because of the way the NHS have been affected. So there has been a percentage of support calls, and then we will assist with the holistic needs, at another time, and making sure the client is supported as part of Macmillan support. So,
Caroline, that's quite a rapid transition from normal life in January 2020 to through COVID and everything that brings to you. And how has that impacted on you? And are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. Thank you very much for asking. Exercise and talking with my friends keep me going, and the support from my family, my husband. But yeah, it's I love my job. I love helping people. So the satisfaction you get when you know that someone's been assisted with the support they need, and it's making a difference to them when they've been diagnosed with a cancer diagnosis, just makes you feel better. So yeah, I'm fine, thanks.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's. I mean, I know it's really hard to be in a job like that, and I'd imagine you've been trained and mentored, but you're still
really good training. Yeah.
It's you and your colleague, and you're dealing with people that are having a really traumatic time.
Yeah, it's very, very true. And I'm thankful that I've got really good support. I've got a great team to work with. I work with fabulous colleagues. I love working in the council, and I've really got a good husband, and I like my yoga.
Yeah, no, it's really important. I guess you carry out such a vital and important service in the community, and I know you'll be tapped into all the other organisations that you work with. You've already mentioned Rays of Hope, and
really passionate about them. Yeah,
and working with all of them is so vital. I've got the details
up
there, and just in terms of some of the other images, because I think everyone is very well aware of the Macmillan Cancer Support. The Macmillan as an organisation is one, I guess, that we all know of. But this is information that you provide, and obviously you've got information leaflets that you can receive or pick up from somewhere. But I guess you've got an online service as well, Caroline.
Yeah, we do. So you're putting the adult services referral along with the number. That's fantastic. Thank you. So if anyone knows of anyone, or anyone's got any concerns regarding a recent diagnosis, or if something's come back, please just refer in. It's very informal, and it'll come to us and we can arrange a chat. Yes, and also if you don't want to refer that way, you can go onto Renfrewshire Council's website and type in Macmillan Improving the Cancer Journey, and you can also do an online referral. It's also just important to note as well that we're a service that cater for all, men and women. So we're hoping to try and engage a wee bit more with men. My project manager, he's going to be, I think he's got a link with St Mirren, and he's going to be linking in with there. But, it's just, we were looking at some stats recently, and 55% of women were referring in, and 45% of men were referring in. So it's just to make sure that we're covering, men and women, both the same. So, we're here for you. So if anyone wants to talk and just have a little chat and even not refer in, my contact details can be passed on, my mobile number for Renfrewshire Council.
That's great, Caroline. I know we're in danger of overrunning this.
No, yeah. And I can talk.
It's
just the final thing, and just if you've got an extra message that you want to get across, and more to the point as well, what can the community do to help?
Yeah, so if obviously there's fantastic support in Renfrewshire. There might be support that we don't know of that we can link in with. So if anyone in the area wants to link in with Improving Cancer Journey, and they now know my name and obviously can get contact details even via yourself, please just come forward, because we're all about engagement, making sure people are well looked after and making sure that if anyone's been diagnosed, that they know they've got the support particular within this area. So we're still a fairly new service, but we're obviously trying to get to know all the supports within the area.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, I think anyone that has either had, a cancer diagnosis themselves, or have got close family or friends who have had a cancer diagnosis, services that you provide and the support is so vital for that challenging journey. And the good thing is now that it is one where there are earlier detections, there are better treatments, and with the right support, you can give both, emotionally and otherwise, that you can get the people through that and see the light of the tunnel at the end. It's such a vital service. Caroline, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you very much for allowing me to come on tonight. I love the show, so thank you so much.
Thanks, Caroline. I appreciate you coming on and shedding a spotlight on that service. Really new service, but vital, and thanks for the work that you do as well.
Oh, not a bother. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thanks, Caroline.
Okay, bye.
I mean, it's one of those subjects, Gary, isn't it? That 30 years ago, cancer was, it was the word that you didn't mention, but now it's something that people will live with. People will be honest about a diagnosis or whatever. But we've got great medical advancements, a fantastic NHS. And of course, wonderful support organisations like Macmillan, like Renfrewshire Council, that are putting these services together to help people. And I think it was Mags that said at the lowest, because I think if you were to receive a cancer diagnosis, that's the mental impact on that must be pretty significant. But there is light at the end of the tunnel, and that optimism that people will have with the support is critical in our communities, Gary.
Yeah, but now knowing that there's somewhere to go, Andy, for support and signposting, and having someone at the end of the phone like Caroline that can help with all of that is good to know, because I didn't know that service existed, Andy, until Caroline contacted us. So it's really good that we're able to bring that message to a wider audience. Yeah.
Absolutely. So great. Thank you so much indeed, Caroline, for coming on the programme. Great to hear that she's an avid watcher of the show, Gary, as well. Tunes in every week.
Yeah. It's a staple in the Paisley and Renfrewshire and wider America, Australia, intercontinental Radio Times listings.
Have we made it into the Radio Times yet, Gary?
We're on the Radio Times.
Well, listen, Gary, before we do go on to our next guest, just a couple of things. We know we love the comments that we get in from everyone. It's fantastic to see all of the comments coming in, particularly when you've got a guest like Caroline that does such an important job. So it's great to see. It's great for Caroline to see that support. So please do keep that. But there was a particular comment that caught my eye, and it caught my eye for entrepreneurial reasons, Gary, and it was Core 2 Computing, Paisley's best-selling piece. They're deciding to try and advertise on the programme now, Gary. What do you think?
Well, we are looking for sponsors, so we'll give that as a freebie. And I think that's okay. Freebies are okay. But the next one, Core 2 Computing, Paisley's best repair and sales centre, is going to cost you.
You've been told.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I got to admire it. They saw an opportunity. They decided to advertise their business. So if your computer's playing up, Core 2 Computing sounds like the very organisation. But if you're looking to sponsor the programme, we'll have
but that's really serious, Andy, the sponsors thing. I don't know if you've been watching some of Tom Urie's stuff. Tom Urie chatted for a wee minute and he goes, "Give me a second. My sponsor," and he pulls his earphone thing up for my sponsor. But there's a wee sponsor thing, audio cable sponsor. So if anyone's looking to sponsor the Paisley Community Chat Show, we've got at least another year of this to go.
You may as well get good value in advertising. Just a quick reminder before we do go on to our next guest. We're going to be talking about something that caught everybody's, certainly a lot of attention on Facebook, and it is all to do with potential plans that could see this building demolished in Paisley. So stay tuned, folks. We're going to give you a few ideas of what we think we want to do about it.
Yeah, and that's coming up, and that'll be a regular thing for us, Andy. We'll launch each one on each question that we've got that's caught our eye or it's in and around Renfrewshire or Paisley.
Absolutely.
Maybe we want a bit of input from you. We'll launch it on a Wednesday and we'll put it on our Facebook.
So stay tuned, folks, coming up. So, Gary, who we got on next?
We've got...
I didn't click that button.
I clicked that. But just in case people don't know, Andy.
Oh, good point, Gary. I know what you're going to say here.
I know what I'm going to say as well. It's a strange thing for me to know what's going to come out. But donation to charity in lieu of sponsorship. Paisley Community Trust are a charity. We're a charity. We're constituted in the Scottish Charitable Incorporated Organisation, 2014, and everything we do is for the benefit for Paisley's community. So if you want to sponsor us, it goes to a charity. So thanks for that moment.
That was good. Nice interlude there, Gary.
Yeah, thank you. And interludes in the future could be advertisements for our sponsor. Just think of the audience that may go out to. There you go. Thank you very much for that. So, next. To move from a relatively taboo subject that we've launched. So we'll talk about anything on the show now. It was good to have Caroline on. Now we want to talk about health and fitness, not food and nutrition, but it might come up, and how health and fitness and clubs can interact with the community. And the first one we've got on this evening to talk about Paisley Rugby Club and all of that is Paul Gilligan.
Hey, Paul.
Hi, good evening, guys. Thanks for having me.
How are you, sir?
I'm very good, thank you. I'm excited to come on the show and spotlight some of the stuff that we've been up to.
Do you know any sponsors that might want to give us a couple of shekels?
We're after that ourselves, so we can maybe help each other out.
we could maybe write to some undisclosed telecoms company, Gary. What do you think?
There's an idea. That's going to cost a lot. We've got a wee logo. We could see that logo up the top right, Andy.
Aye. We
could replace that with a telecoms organisation.
Brought to you by Anonymous. Yeah, well, we'll have a think about that one. We'll have a think.
Available in every room.
Paul, you seem to have your a few folks in tonight. You certainly got the fan club in already, Paul. So
good.
Don't know if you know any of them, whether they're just being overly friendly, Paul. But welcome to Paisley Community Chat Show, Paul. It's great to have you on. I guess the question that we ask all of our guests, tell us a little bit about yourself and your organisation, Paul.
Yeah, so like I say, thanks again for bringing me on, guys. I think I'll probably start with highlighting a wee bit about myself. So albeit it's been a horrible year for everybody, it's actually been a bit of a blessing in disguise, this COVID, for myself, and I'll explain why. So I started playing rugby when I was about 12 years old. I joined the military when I was 16, so I was away down south, and I didn't come back to Paisley until I was about 25. So for the best part of the last 7 years, I haven't done anything sport-wise at all. I've always been motivated to try and get back into it, but I've just not really had that kick up the backside to do it. Did try and join the gyms and things like that, but the gyms bore the life out of me. I never stuck it out. So when this hit, and all of a sudden I was stuck at home. I'm a massive St Mirren fan, so when that was took away from me on a Saturday and I couldn't go and watch the football in the stadiums, albeit we can watch it on TV, but it's just not the same. That gave me the motivation to get back in touch with the rugby club, and I've been there since May, and I've not looked back, albeit 32 now, nowhere near as fit as what I used to be. That I was really quite anxious about going back because of the fitness side of things.
Yeah.
But it's one of the best decisions I've made, so I'm ecstatic to be back at the club. I wouldn't say it's not like I've never been away, because again the fitness level isn't quite there from when I was a wee bit younger, but aye, so that's where I am just now. So I've kind of mentioned that to the club, and I do a bit of work out in my own. I work for a large telecommunications company, as you've said, and we do quite a lot of network. We do quite a lot of networking with our home nations, because we sponsor the home nations football teams. And I did mention that to the club, and kind of stuff that we do with grassroots football and women's and Paris football as well. And so the club actually took that on board, and they decided to make a new appointment at the club, and that's the community engagement officer, to which I've been involved since November this year. So basically, my number one aim just now, community engagement officer during a pandemic. So if I can do it during a pandemic, I'll be fine moving forward. But it is just to make Paisley Rugby Club a real community club for anybody in Paisley, and that is for girls, boys, our older generation as well. That is my ultimate goal, and so that's what I'm coming on things like this will hopefully be able to do.
Great, Paul. And you're based down at the Anchor Rec, aren't you? As I know it.
Yeah, so we are just behind the Morrisons, just off Lone End. If you know that, we're just behind there. So we do have signposts up. If people know the Power League, it used to be called the Pits. Well, we're based just beside there. We've been there since 1985, believe it or not. But the amount of people that I speak to, they don't actually know that's where we are. That's where we are. And you know, we are your rugby club. We represent Scotland's biggest town, be it Paisley, and so we really want to get you involved and to come down and do that. And we have been up to all sorts this year. Obviously, with the situation, it's not been ideal, but we really do want to kind of highlight that we are there for Paisley. So I'll go through some of the things that we've done this year. So back in or the last 12 months, sorry. So back in April, we delivered fish suppers to Linstone Housing, the sheltered housing accommodation. Back in May, we donated £180, and I hope this isn't going to put off any future players, but that was actually from our first team's fines. So we get small fines for silly little things like leaving bits of equipment after training and things like that. So that was made a donation. We also have launched our first team top with the Star Project as one of our main sponsors on it. And I have to show you this, being a St Mirren fan as well, I absolutely love it. So this is the first team top that we haven't worn yet, obviously because of the situation, but we've got the Paisley pattern there on the sleeves, and then thank you NHS. We've got the Star Project.
Paul, is it professional rugby?
It's for our amateur team. We play in West League 2, so we are an amateur team. So we do, and again, we cater for all age groups. So we cater from primary 1 all the way up to whatever age you can keep going. Very recently, so this year, in August, actually, that's how recent it is. And again, it's very difficult during the pandemic, but we're still kind of pushing on with it. And we're really excited about this. We've just launched our women and girls section for the first time at the club. So, and that has been a massive uptake of girls. As far as I'm aware, only a few of them, so 1 or 2, I've only played before. Most of the girls are all brand new. That's some of the girls there down at the club. So we've got about 20 members just now, but again, during a pandemic, it's pretty good, but we always want to kind of increase that as well. Now, there is a lot of people that might be a bit anxious about getting involved in rugby because of the physical aspect. So we do have something called touch rugby as well. So that is basically rugby, but without the contact. So we've got a separate squad for the touch rugby as well.
Where's the fun in that then, Paul?
Where's the fun? Well, it's usually for the kind of fitter, speedier people rather than myself that just likes the contact side of things.
If you've ever watched this programme before, Paul, I don't know very much about football. I was never a footballer or whatever. Karate was my thing, so that was the thing that I used to practice a bit of that. So football not really too familiar with it. Rugby, I know even less. But the name confuses me because you're Paisley Rugby Football Club.
Yeah, so rugby itself, and I was the same before. Like I said, I was a St Mirren fan. In primary school, I never even seen a rugby ball, never mind play it. So I didn't really. So it turned out I was absolutely mince at football, but I wasn't too bad at rugby. So that's how I kind of get involved. So rugby developed from a football game. I don't know the exact date, but it was in the English town rugby where they picked up the ball during the game, and then that kind of developed into what we know. So that's why
that's where the rugby football comes from. It's not a new style that you've created, and you don't have a separate football team. It's the one thing.
It's rugby union. I just saw the comment there. Is it union or proper rugby? So it is proper rugby, that being rugby union. If anybody doesn't know what I mean by that, there is another sport called rugby league, but we are a rugby union team.
And Ray's spent a lot of his life in St Helens, so he's probably a wee dig in there.
Aye.
And clearly, I mean, you talked about the kind of pandemic right now and having to deal with the implications of COVID. Hopefully, we're going to turn the corner on that, and we'll finish the year out in a better position than what we started. But I guess ultimately, New Year tends to bring a focus on health and fitness, Paul. So have you seen a sort of increase in numbers or an appetite in people looking to kind of get fit? And I would imagine rugby, it's a pretty physical game. It's going to help you get into shape a bit.
Oh, definitely. And again, if it wasn't for COVID, we're all raring to go, our guys. So before the latest lockdown, we have been training, albeit heavily restricted with the COVID restrictions that we've got in place. So basically, we've just been doing kind of fitness. So we are raring to go on the park. But we actually do have something lined up. And again, it's totally COVID. We're waiting for this COVID to disappear because we've got so many plans, but we're actually going to run a rugby beginners month. So that as you come down for the month, you train with us, we'll teach you the fundamental basics of rugby. It'll be totally free. And then at the end of it, you want to continue, then obviously you continue with us, and if not, then but I think most people would actually continue because it's not just the sport itself, it's the friends that you meet, it's the confidence that you have with working in a team. And I think with rugby, it's not like football where you've got your one or two superstars. Every single member of that squad is vitally important. So that's I think the kind of bite of the difference. Sorry, there's one thing I forgot to mention about last year, and it's actually quite a big thing. So back in November, our first team done Movember, that's when you grow the moustache, and we actually raised for the children's hospitals across Scotland, and unbelievably we raised £9,222.35 over a month during these times is phenomenal. Anything like that from now and moving forward, if you want to see what we're getting up to, if you want to get involved, if I can just direct people to our Facebook page, look for Paisley Rugby Football Club, and we do update that regularly. And again, if you do want to get involved, just drop us a line. Even if you don't want to get involved as a player, we're looking for volunteers, because again, we've got age groups from primary 1 all the way up. Or even if you just want to come down when we do get back to normality, when our first team play on a Saturday, you can come down and hopefully have a pint and watch a bit of rugby, or even come down and have a cup of tea and sit and watch. So again, it's open to absolutely everybody, so please get involved.
Yeah, I was going to say, Paul, the social side of amateur sport is a massive part of it. That bonding, that somewhere to go, somewhere to relate to know that you've got an outlet. I'd imagine, I mean, I've played amateur football all my life, so that was what happened there. I'd imagine it's the exact same, if not even better, in your view, at rugby.
Yeah, I think so. I can't really compare it to football because I've not been in that environment, but even just now, so the likes of just before Christmas, we had Santa visit the club for the kids. And
what language was he speaking?
Paisley.
Oh, no French?
No, I mean, no French.
You needed to watch that episode, Paul.
Sorry, I didn't. I missed that one.
That's now a joke.
Right over my head. And obviously just now, because we can't meet We've got our different sections. We're all involved in WhatsApp groups, and we do try and keep things going, where we have quiz nights and things like that with the different sections. So rugby is almost like a bonus. It really is like another family that you've got. They just happen to play sport.
Have you got a training programme for the Posh Voice?
For the posh? Have I got a Posh Voice?
No, when you end up playing international rugby, and you get the guys that are getting interviewed in the telly, and they all speak a certain way, or is that me picking up the wrong thing here?
Well, I suppose, when it comes to speaking to referees and things like that, you do have a massive respect. You do build a kind of massive respect playing rugby. So if the referee makes a bad decision, you very rarely hear people shouting and screaming at the ref. You'll very rarely see people diving about the pitch. That's what I kind of like about rugby. Yes, in the senior level, you might get people taking things a wee bit overboard, but
we've got a wee bit of breaking news tonight for you, Paul. A wee bit of breaking news, and I don't know how this news is going to go down, but Gavin Newlands, he's got some bad news for the players. He's coming back to get fit.
Fantastic.
And lockdown hasn't been good, apparently. Gavin, maybe like the rest of us, have suffered from a slightly expanding waistline. So there we go.
That's great news.
Gavin, is he welcome back with open arms?
Certainly. I mean, Gavin played at the club when I wasn't there, so I've not got a problem with it at all. But so the more the merrier. And like I say, I'm not just reading off a script. It really is life changing with the mental aspect of things as well. And again, I went 7 years without doing any fitness.
Yeah.
And this is, I wouldn't say I'm fully fit, but I'm so much better than what I was 6 months ago. So again, COVID for me is a silver lining in disguise.
Fantastic.
Aspect, Paul, is a totally different fitness to football.
Yeah, I would say so. It's more robustness, I would say, where, again, you just need to look at the shape of the guys. But we all bring something different. So you could be a bigger build, where you're a wee bit more slower, but obviously you're a lot stronger. Or you could be quite a small nippy person, and you're just as important as each other. So it's the fact that we can bring all the cogs together that makes a great rugby team. You can't write down a bit of paper what makes a good rugby player. It's all sorts of different people in body builds and things like that make a great team.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd certainly rugby. I'd give it a go. I don't know how long I would last these days, mind you, before I get trampled over, but. Paul, it's been great to have you on the programme. We'll get your details back up there, but I guess ultimately the main thing is just to check out your website, I guess, your Facebook page, which will have all the latest updated information on it. And I guess, you're encouraging everybody, give it a go, take part.
That's it, guys. I'll see you soon.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks for coming on. See you soon,
guys.
Catch you later. Bye. I didn't know Gavin Newlands was a rugby guy. They might.
Yes, I recall a very fetching picture of Gavin during the 2021 bid when the Paisley rugby team had this lovely fuchsia coloured Paisley 2021 top.
Right.
And Gavin was the model. So I'm interested to see how he's let himself go, because it fitted him quite well, that top.
I wanted to see if we can dig that picture out. I'm just thinking, when he's down on the benches in Westminster now that he's, known to do rugby. Do you think any of the MPs down there might think twice about questioning him next time? I've seen Boris rugby tackling some, 6-year-olds or whatever they were when he went to school once.
I remember that. I'm looking forward to the day that when Boris is exiting stage left, Gavin just dives across and dives
over and takes him out. Paul, thank you so much for coming on. We're running a wee bit late. That usually happens in the show because there's good stuff to talk about. But we talked about an announcement that we're going to be making, and we're at that point just before we bring our last superb guest onto the programme. So we've talked a wee bit about the headlines that catch our eyes as we go through, and this story about the potential that the Paisley Chivas building might be demolished. It's under consideration. It's not a listed building. It was built in the 60s. And what we want to do is know exactly what you think. Paisley community is a community of members. We've got not a great number of viewers that see this programme every single week. So for a number of weeks, we've talked about launching the question of the week. So that's what we're going to be launching tonight. So it's a Paisley Community Trust question of the week. And each week, we're going to be asking you a question about Paisley or about Renfrewshire, because we want to know what your views and opinions are. So I'm going to be posting a link in the comments, so that'll go out to you shortly. But as you probably guessed, it's a very simple question. And the question is tonight, should the former Chivas building on Renfrew Road be demolished to make way for the new development of the site? And it's just a simple yes or no question. So I don't want you to post your comments in here, but what I want you to do is jump onto this link that I've just posted up, and you'll have that on Facebook and YouTube if you're watching. Click on the link, click in the answer that you want, yes or no, and by the end of the programme, we'll try and reveal where we're at by the end of the show. All right, folks.
Is that something that we're going to put on Facebook as a thing for a few days, Andy? Is that the plan?
Absolutely. So we're just going to do a quick test of the test of the senses tonight to see if it works, because this is our first one. So we thought we'd do it with our chat show audience. But we will be going out, and that question will last a week. So you get a week to answer the question. But we just want to get a kind of real-time analysis with that question. The link's up there. Click the link, answer yes or no, and by the end of the show, we'll tell you what the percentage is of yes or no. All right, folks?
Super duper, Andy. So that takes us very nicely from our question of the week, which we're going to be as a regular feature, not just on the show, but on our Facebook and social media channels, right into our final guest this evening. So apologies, Kate, we have overrun, but we did let you know about that. Told you in advance, very likely overrun. And continuing the sporting theme, it's Kate Cooper, who's St Mirren FC Women's Football Club coach, oblique, everything else.
Kate.
Hello, good evening. That's how it normally works.
How are you? So sorry for keeping you so long to come onto the programme, but we say it time and time again, the guests make the show, and when you've got some fantastic guests on, we want to make sure that we give them a good chat. So thanks for being so patient, Kate.
No, but my question of the week really is for you, Andy.
Okay.
Is it DC Comics or is it Marvel?
Well, that's it. That is a really good question. If it was the movies, I would say Marvel have made better movies. But when it comes to comic books, I'm a DC guy.
Yeah, I can see that with your figures behind there.
I've got but the best is well, I don't know. I've got the Swedish Chef up here, but I kind of like this guy here. Look at him.
Oh wow! Don't ask him to get his honey monster out, Kate.
That's a different show. Let's move on.
Andy's first ever record. Is it still in the cupboard?
It's probably still in the cupboard here, Gary. I only get it out on special occasions.
This is a special occasion.
Wow.
Gary, you're going to see on your vinyl programme, you're going to have to play this.
It's got to be my record. Unless they're donated into the box, Andy.
Oh, I might donate this. I've been meaning to get rid of it for some time now, Gary.
Well spotted.
Yes, moving on. Yes, good. It's always good to pay attention.
The show with a bit of banter, and maybe we'll never ever talk about football because Andy doesn't like football. He doesn't date football.
No, listen, I'm a St Mirren supporter. If my mum always told me, if you ever get stopped in the pub and anyone says, "What team do you support?" You support your home team. You support St Mirren. I was brought up to support St Mirren, so I'm a St Mirren supporter. And you know yourself, Kate, in this part of the world, you've got teams for all sorts of different reasons. But Paisley, St Mirren, support your home team. So I can't play football, but I do support St Mirren.
I have, since I've got involved with the club, which just was around 2018. I think that's probably been one of the biggest things that has really struck me about the club is really how invested the people of Paisley are with St Mirren, because without a shadow of a doubt, it's what I would say is that they're real, genuine, committed fans to the club, and they're so passionate about it, and that's rare and that's unusual to get. So they'll support them through thick and thin. So it's absolutely amazing. And it's been great for us. It's been great for the women and girls team as well. So the kind of a thing for us is that St Mirren have not always had women and girls football. So in 2018, I had to laugh when Paul was talking about feeling old at 32. I was a bit like, maybe once to add another 15, 20 years to that, and then we can talk about when you feel about the sport then. But no, I've been in football a long time, played for I was 13, 14. I actually played at a time when there was none of these age groups. So at that age, I would play in a football team over in my wee hometown of Wishaw. So I played for a football team there, and I would turn up and I'd be training alongside women who were 20, 30 years of age. And you just had to be able to handle it. That was where it was done. And I was very fortunate. I had female coaches when I first started playing, which was really rare. And they really pushed us to kind of really engage with sport. And I think what Paul spoke about there is sport doesn't matter what sport you do. It's more than just the actual sport. It's really about meeting other people and really engaging in that and learn how to be part of something that's bigger than you. And it really gives you so many life skills. So in 2018, old players that I had coached had come along and asked us to come and meet the club along with one of the guys from Smysis actually, and we went to the club and we spoke to the club about setting up a women and girls team, and that's what we did. So in the beginning, I remember first training night, it was like freezing cold in Seed Hill actually, because we're still trying to develop our facilities for the women and girls, and I'll explain why we have to do that. But there was like 6 players turned up, and today we have an academy running from under 9s all the way through to the senior team, and we have around about 150 players and volunteers that run that in a really short period of time, including a year of a pandemic. So so I think for us it's been great. When we first met at the club, one of the challenges is in terms of facilities. So the Ralston facility with all the boys teams is really full up there. And so I was quite keen. So I think sometimes the challenge for female sport is that you're always seen as taken away from male sport. And so whenever you go anywhere, people just go, but you're going to take that off us because we need to give you that space. So I thought it was amazing that Paisley Rugby Club are starting the female section as well, because if you're in as any organisation, if you exclude one part, you actually limit your ability to grow. So if any organisation, any sport organisation out there, really engage women and girls football, because they have dreams and ambitions as well, and just because maybe you don't understand it or maybe you've never embraced it doesn't mean to say it won't bring, because women and girls sport brings a huge difference to whatever club you're in, no matter what sport you're doing, a completely different perspective. So I think one of the things we're always quite keen on is that we're not the same as the guys' game. It's the same, it's a sport, football, but how we play the game is a bit different. So I would say that we focus a lot more on technical, a lot more on actual football, and playing of the football and playing of the game. And I liked what Paul said there as well, is in the women's game, if you want to do a bit of rolling about your own teammates, because it's not something that. So so we're based over it. So in terms of facilities, we used council facilities in the beginning, but we began to grow that, and we've actually this year, or at the beginning of the pandemic, we actually have really developed a really good partnership with the Linwood Development Community Trust over at Moss Edge Village. So that's actually going to become the home of St Mirren women and girls in football. And the reason why I was really sorry.
No, I was about that whole development of the club, Kate, and the growth from 6 people to a significant footprint. I was going to go back a bit. I'm really interested in how you got into football.
I played. It was just a sport. I've always loved football. Grew up in Wishaw, and a bit like that. Was a big supporter of Motherwell and Steelman. That was the football club, and then I started to play football over in Wishaw for a club called Coltness. And what was quite interesting was we used to play in those. Now this is showing my age. We used to play on the ash parks, the Blaze.
You wouldn't want to get grazed on your leg with that.
Yeah, our players now think they're hard done when they don't have the 3G. You think, honestly, just turning up where your jackets were the goalposts, and so I played football for a long time through a different various of clubs. But the female coaches I had, they really encouraged us all to get actively involved with coaching in the sport. So I probably took up coaching around about 21, 22, and then just was involved in kind of promoting the game, and then more recently really tried to change the sport. So we were part of that when Anna Signeul came, who was our national coach before Shelley Kerr and had come from Sweden. She really understood how to connect. The clubs played a whole important part because we saw players every single day or every single week. She was seeing them a wee bit. So for us to change players on a kind of a more world stage, the actual domestic coaches were really important. And she really engaged us, and probably for me and a lot of the coaches now in this country gave us a huge opportunity to develop and really push the game, and which we did. So I've coached across many clubs, but it's sometimes I think that it's not really about me. I just see that my role as a coach is to be effectively a dream maker for the kids. That's actually what I do. Because they have dreams and ambitions, and somebody created opportunities for me, and really I think sometimes in Scotland we don't really allow people to shine. We kind of want people to limit themselves because that's what keeps us in a wee box, because that's what everybody feels comfortable in. So probably one of the biggest things that I push is don't limit yourself to keep someone else happy. So how much can you shine, and how much can you come along, and can we focus on what they're really good at, and can we develop what they're really good at, because that gives us the world stage and that gives us who we are. And ultimately that's what will get us the fans. Like let's be frank, nobody wants to come and watch boring football or boring sport. So it's try to get the players and those involved.
I know. I go every other week.
Gary's month season ticket.
Listen, I'll be phoning Jim and just saying but the club's been great.
You say there, Kate, in terms of what you're doing, you're trying to, yes, you want your team to be able to play the game better, so you've got to motivate them on the pitch, but you're developing and coaching these people as individuals. It's the way that they conduct themselves, the kind of positive mindset that they take into other parts of their life. That I guess that you're trying to. It's not just how to kick a ball better or how to save a ball better or whatever it might be. You're trying to develop them as individuals, are you not?
Yeah, well, I mean, for some of our women, like some of the players that I coach with just now with the women's team, they've never had a female coach. They've never experienced, and having a female coach is completely different from, because I'm not male, so I have a different way of thinking and a different way of dealing with things. And I think for the players, it's just an amazing opportunity for them to, also as well as in their kind of a real lives. I mean, most of our players are frontline workers within and have been out during the pandemic and have done an amazing. But the actual top middle photograph there is of Zoe. So she's 16, has come up through our youth academy. And she wants to be an engineer. So she's going into an area which is male dominated. But for us, we can help her understand that she's as of value to be an engineer as any boy coming up through the school, and that actually she's immensely clever, a very smart girl. So why shouldn't she go do that?
And what does she want to do?
Civil engineering. And the thing is, she'll probably have to go down to looking at a university in Bristol. So for us, we can do that bit of contact down there, get her connected into Bristol down there, football. So we're already creating a group of people that she can go and engage with and be part of. And then obviously Karen,
behind the scenes and the connections and the network.
Yes, it is, and that's what I like to do. I like to teach them how to know the importance of being able to network and to connect with people, because ultimately it doesn't matter what systems and that you use. It's really about your connection with people. But Karen here, who's our current captain, she's a scientist. That's what she does. So she's been really heavily involved with testing in schools over the pandemic period as well. So
fantastic, because that's the two most important roles there, yourself and the captain. I suppose you've got to forge quite an important relationship between your captain, because that's the player that's out in the field with the rest of the players to try and, I guess, do what your tactics and what you're planning and so on.
Yeah, the captain is probably the role that in terms of players that I develop quite closely with, because she's really important to me, and also important sometimes. Two reasons: one is to help me bridge what the players actually know, because sometimes I think I'm telling them something that doesn't necessarily say they're actually understanding what I'm trying to get across to them. And two, so we have a very honest relationship. I think probably the players will tell you if they ask them. I don't know what they expected, but I think honesty's been the biggest thing, because I'm just very direct, and I tell them what will help them develop, not what they would like to hear, because I think sometimes that's a challenge. But we're doing great over at Linwood. We've got a huge project to do there, because it's about building a stand for us as well, because the league changed this in 2020. So we launched the performance. So we split the leagues in women's football in Scotland, and we went to have performance, which is towards becoming professional and elite. And then we have recreational, so we're part of the performance arm. So our facilities have to be top notch. We have to have real good standards, and we want to give that to women and girls sport, because sometimes there's always a wee challenge there for us, where it's like just what we can get, and rather than actually what we should have. And I think that was really highlighted. I know COVID and a big support of all that, but we just even recently, there's still a long gap to go. When the first lockdown came there, they allowed 300 men's teams to return to playing football, and they allowed 18 women's teams. So that rest of that sport get basically, and so there's still that element for us where we're having to really push to say, where is the difference there? Like my players, over in the AstroTurf over there, and they've been amazing.
How did that affect you? Because I remember playing amateur. You play in grass every Saturday, or when you're younger, you played in ash or you played in gravel. And then when you got older, the AstroTurf parks appeared, and it didn't matter to us at our level. Does it matter to you guys?
I think historically for the women's game, no, because what the women's game had to make a decision a long time ago was, if we wanted to improve our product and have a good product for people to come to, and it was on every week. And so when I'd done some work with the SFA and with developing football many years ago, we actually visited loads of countries. So I've been in like Sweden, Holland, France, Germany, Italy, looking at how Europe really grew their sport, and actually end for a game I end to do a bit of travelling, but that's the days where you could like dream about travelling and dream about hugs and dream about like having contact with people. But one of the big things we noticed with them was they wanted the games on every single week without fail to grow that fan base. So we chose to change over here, and what it meant was football was on all the time. The women's game was never cancelled. It was never off. And that's what's allowed a lot of the clubs like Glasgow City, Hibs, like Rangers, Celtic are in now. They have a fan base. We have a fan base because people know that if the women's game on, the women's game's on. We're not concerned whether or not. And also, until COVID came in, we also played a summer league where we played from March through to October, and then closed down over the winter, because once again we wanted the games to take place. And also, as well as, we're very family based. So one of the programmes we've introduced at the women's team and the Women and Girls Academy is called the Buds Brigade, in which we're looking to take kids that don't play football and they would turn up to the home games, and effectively we make them into like the camera people. They do the tea, they do the all background stuff, because we want to make it as inclusive as possible. So if you're not a sporty person, you can still come and be part of something, and we can teach them stuff, and hopefully we can get that back up and running.
Kate, that inclusivity it's so important, particularly anything at sort of community level. Everyone's got a part to play, and organisations that do, really sort of open their doors to everyone that can come in and play their part. It's absolutely fantastic. And I guess also, Kate, finally, just as we start to kind of near the end here, you and the team that you've got down there are clearly all future role models. For young girls and young women, and it's great that you do what you do, and we need to be able to shine a spotlight on that more. So it's been a real pleasure to have you on the show, Kate, to tell us about everything that you do, and I guess we just wish you continued success and continued growth. It sounds like you know what you're doing, and you've got your plans there. So great to have you on the programme, Kate.
Thanks very much. Bye-bye.
Great, Kate. Thank you. See you later.
Bye, Kate. Cheers now.
Bye.
Oh, fantastic, Gary. I need to start sorting up in my football though, Gary. That's the real challenge for me.
Well, you need to start by playing in an ash park, red grass, mitre against your thigh, Andy, and a winter's day, and you can see the word mitre for weeks.
Nothing worse. I can even hear the scalp.
Honestly, I remember playing as a kid in the driving snow, and I was a right winger when I was young. So you just used to get told, hang out there, hang out there, hang out there, and you'd be standing there in the snow like a frozen snotter till the ball came to you. And coaching in my day, when I played football at the level I played, never coached, never trained, never coached. Wasn't told how to stretch, how to exercise, how to kick a ball. I was just going out and play. And that's how I ended up kind of rubbish.
Well, listen, Gary, great guests coming in, and great audience as always. But we mentioned that we were going to be launching tonight the Paisley Community Trust question of the week. Yeah. And the question was very simple. Do you think should the former Shivers building on Renfrew Road be demolished to make way for the new development on the site? So very simple question. It was either a yes or no answer. And Gary, although this question will last for a week, I have the results in.
What are we?
Well, hold on. I'm going to refresh my page, Gary.
Okay, Andy, I was going to say, see when you put the question of the week up.
Aye.
I was thinking of having a theme tune for it.
Oh, question. Right. Okay.
Like, remember, you used to have the quiz of the week.
All right. You want a melody or something like that song?
Here's the question of the week.
Maybe we might just actually use that, Gary. That was very melodic, Gary.
I'm sure that was. What was that called? It was that guy that just died recently. It was Quiz of the Week from Norwich.
Oh, from what was his name? Parsons, Nicholas Parsons.
Somebody will comment on it down the side, and it's the Quiz of the Week. So what we're going to have is the question of the week.
Well, I thought I was almost saying Bamber Gascoigne, but he was University Challenge.
University Challenge. So it was the Quiz of the Week from Norwich. Sale of the century. Got it before anybody else said it.
Well, listen, the results are in.
Right, okay. I was padding.
And a drum roll. Should we demolish the building? Overwhelmingly, by 95%, so it wasn't 100%, 95% said no. That building should not be demolished. I'm sure
that's an interesting straw poll over 15-20 minutes there, Andy. It'd be really interesting to see if that remains as high over a longer period of time.
Absolutely. So there we go. So breaking news from Paisley Community Trust, from those that have polled, and we've got a 95% saying no, the building shouldn't be demolished. I guess what they would like to see, without putting words into their mouth, they would like to see that building incorporated in some way, shape or form into the new plans.
Andy, let's just stop the survey. 95% of Renfrewshire's public want to see the Shivers building retained.
Yep.
And built into the development plans for the new site. Done.
Yep. Well, listen, and there's Roddy Boyd wanting to share the question. The link's there. So, Roddy, we're going to be putting up a formal post for this later on. So once that's up, Roddy, and likewise with everyone else, we'll be able to formally share that question of the week out there. So thanks to everyone that participated in the question of the week. It will be out for the next week now, and we'll give you the full results at the end of next week. And we'll launch the new question of the week on next week's chat show. And I think from our wonders who work all the things behind the scenes here, it's already up on Facebook, so you can share away, folks. But I'm personally not surprised by that result, Gary, but you just never know. That's why you ask the questions.
Andy, I'm surprised it's so low at the moment.
95%. Well, listen, we've only had a relatively good number of people put in, but if that goes up, over the next course of the next week, we'll see what it says, and we'll announce those results next week. Now, the question of the week, Gary, a final little request to everyone. The question of the week is going to be something that we're going to think about, something that we might see in the Facebook pages or in the press. But it might also be something that you would like to ask. So if you would like to ask the question of the week, send us a little private message on our Facebook page or on Twitter and propose your question of the week, and we'll leave it to the team. And if it's something that we want to do, we'll put it out there. So who knows what next week's question of the week might be, but it'll be really interesting to get the pulse of the people of Paisley and Renfrewshire and what they would like to see happen in their town and in their area. And we might have a tune behind it next week. I'm just going to edit your bit out, Gary, and that's the tune. It's decided. Need to see what I can do, Gary. Good. Well, listen, as always, a fantastic show. We've overrun tonight, but I mean, it's obvious why we overrun. We always talk about an hour show, but really, let's be honest, folks. This is turning into an hour and a half show. I think we should go on a wee bit earlier so I can get and get my tea. Oh, you want to go out at the new time of 7:30, Gary? What about 7:53? Just to be different. Well, listen, a fantastic show. Thank you to everyone that's tuned in. Thank you for all your support. Thanks to our wonderful guests. Gary, I guess there's the question of what we got lined up next week. Well, it is going through the Burns period, so we've not got it arranged yet. So what I'd like to do next week is to have a Robert Burns themed evening. If I can get that arranged, Andy. So it's going to be a Robert Burns themed evening. It'd be great if somebody could cook a dinner for us. All right. Haggis, neeps, tatty. So we know somebody that might be able to do that, Andy. Oh, so there's a cook along, a haggis, neeps, and tatties cook along, maybe. Yes, that's a thought. Okay. And I'd like to get a bit of poetry. I'd like to tell the story of the Burns statue down in the Fountain Gardens. All of that stuff. So it's a Burns night we're going to have. Fantastic. Looking forward to it. So, folks, I guess in the meantime, it's been great to have you on. Have a wonderful week ahead of you. And, just look after yourselves and look after each other. Yeah, thanks, everyone. In particular, thanks to all our American friends for tuning in tonight and coming away from what's happening over there. And wish you all the best. Thanks, everyone. And really appreciate everybody tuning in. Thanks again, everyone. And from me, good night. Good night, folks. See you later. Bye-bye.